So we're starting with chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, 4.1. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Abhyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshvaka Vibravit. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable Abhyaya, imperishable science of yoga, to the sun god Vivasvan. And Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita, traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. History. So Krishna is saying that it was spoken in this universe first to Vivasvan. The kings of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. So clearly Prabhupada is outlining the responsibility or duty of a king. So they should be able to rule the citizens and protect them from the material bondage to lust. But our administrators in today's time are actually, they themselves are in the bondage to lust, stuck in that lust. So how can they protect others? They can't protect others. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge. What is that spiritual knowledge? Knowledge that is in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. So, human beings have to engage in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, and all executive heads of states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson. So Prabhupada is saying by education, culture, and devotion. So one is education, but it cannot just remain at the level of education like in some school and college, right? It has to be translated to culture, which means people have to live by that education. It means that people have to live as servants of Krishna. And along with that, there has to be devotion, because this is for the pleasure of the Lord. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. So this is the whole idea of material world, that one may take advantage of this great science of Krishna consciousness and pursue a successful path. Successful path is to go back to Krishna, utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. Otherwise, human form of life is wasted. One should not waste human form of life because it is very precious. It is said that even the demigods want to come and take birth here, because here there is equal amount of like suffering and happiness. Neither of them are too much. If suffering is too much also, then people might not come to bhakti. If enjoyment is also too much, they might not come. So this is giving a pure, is giving successful path. So one in human form of life should engage in Krishna consciousness. and achieve success. So in this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Yachakshuresha Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Tejaha Yasyagnaya Brahmati Samvrita Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Let me worship, Lord Brahma said. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person, and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. So clearly here it is saying that the sun traverses its orbit. But according to modern science, sun is stationary and other planets orbit the sun. But here it is saying that the sun represents the eye of the Lord and it traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. And he is assuming immense power and heat. So the sun is also called Surya Narayana because it's actually representative of the Lord. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that in one of the verses somewhere, that Krishna's original name is Govinda. So that is why here it says Govindam Adipurusha. So his name is Govinda. The sun is the king of the planets, and the sun god at present of the name Vivaswan rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not therefore a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar. Mundane scholar is insignificant, but he is worshipped. Scientists, so-called scientists, doctors, maybe they're all worshipped. But it's a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. Standard means authorized, coming from time immemorial. In Mahabharata, Shanti Parva, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta Yugadau Chatato Vivaswan Manavedadau Manushcha Loka Prutyartham Sutaye Kshvakave Sutaye Kshvakave Dadau Ikshvakuna Cha Katito Vyapya Lokan Avastitaha. In the beginning of the millennium, known as Treta Yuga, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaj Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet, and forefather of the Raghu dynasty, in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaj Ikshvaku. So now Prabhupada, now he will calculate for how long Bhagavad Gita has been around, so to speak. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, which lasts 4,32,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapar Yuga, 8 lakh years. Before that, there was Treta Yuga, 12 lakh years. And thus, some 20 lakh 5,000 years ago, Manu spoke Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son, Maharaj Ikshvaku. That is in this Chatur Yuga. In this Chatur Yuga, Manu spoke this Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son, Maharaj Ikshvaku, who was the king of the earth planet then. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 30 crores. 3 lakh 1 crore, 30 crore years, of which 12 crore years have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple sun god, because it came from Vivaswan then to Ikshvaku. Vivaswan to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku. So when did Krishna speak to Vivaswan? So Krishna must have spoken to Vivaswan, who's the Manu, of whose life 120 or 12 crore years have passed. So many years ago, Krishna spoke to Vivaswan. The human society, it has been extended for 2 million years. That was in the demigod society, 12 crore years. And for 20 lakh years, now it is there in human society. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is a rough estimate of the history of the Gita according to Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Shri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god of the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Person of Godhead, this knowledge is apaurusheya, superhuman. Beginning, it is not given by a Purusha, by a human. It is above humans. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is. The disciplic succession, and it is described here in that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku. So Prabhupada is saying here that it has to be accepted as it is. And in ISKCON nowadays, there is some fancy for what is called bridge preaching. Bridge preaching means that you don't tell what Krishna has told in Bhagavad Gita or what Prabhupada has, purports Prabhupada has given, because it is too heavy. So in the first chapter only, like Prabhupada talks about very delicate issue about how, Stri, Vaishya, Tata, Shudra. Chanakya Pandit says, women are should not be, they're not intelligent, and this kind of statement. So people say, no, this, we should not discuss this. Because in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita only, if we talk about all these controversial points, and people might lose trust in us and they might not come to us. So we think that the way in which Prabhupada has written his purports is not conducive for preaching. So we will not use it. So it's pretty crazy because Krishna gave Bhagavad Gita to make people in ignorance, to convert them to devotees, but for some reason some people think that it's not conducive, or it's not structured, or it's so many reasons people give to not present Bhagavad Gita as the first book of knowledge. But before coming to Bhagavad Gita, we can read all the small books of Srila Prabhupada. But Bhagavad Gita is so clear. It's as clear as it's the sun. Why do we have to create some intermediate books to understand Bhagavad Gita? We don't have to. So it has to be accepted as it is. So if Prabhupada is saying, okay, Kripana is a miser. Second chapter, he says, skin disease. People are attached to with the skin disease. They are too overly attached to family. Somebody reads this and say, oh, okay, what is this? This is not for me. So let's not talk about this skin disease, miserly, heavy stuff. Let's tone it down. What is the use of this toning down? Eventually, they have to understand that they are kripanas, that they have skin disease. And then if we wait for too long and then we tell them later saying that today we'll say, everything is fine. Okay, whatever you're doing is fine. Okay. Then suddenly we'll say, no, whatever you're doing is not fine. And they'll think we cheated them. Instead, we will give the message as it is, and whoever wants to take it will take it. Whoever is sincere, serious, they will take it. Hmm. So, no beating around the bush business. Bhagavatam also, straightforward. Dharma projita kaitavatra paramo. Beginning only it rejects all dharma which is focused on dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Any religious practice which focused on dharma, artha, kama, moksha, Bhagavatam rejects. Like early on, first few slokas, this is being talked about. So there is, we don't have to hide anything from anybody. Whatever is there is there. As in, we didn't create this for us to decide which one to choose, which one not to give, which one to give. And whoever is serious will take the message. Whoever is not serious, what can we do? Unfortunate they are. But we'll pray that they somehow come. But we should make them understand, saying that suffering in this material world is due to this material attachment. No, if one goes to a doctor doesn't tell the patient clearly what the problem is and doesn't tell him do's and don'ts. What is the use? So when people come to us, we are like spiritual doctors. We have to give whatever is the treatment. We can't simply give some medicine. Like for example, we'll say, okay, you chant Hare Krishna, but we don't tell them anything about any other aspect of Krishna consciousness. Say like do's and don'ts, give up material attachment, don't be overly attached to material things. If we don't say these things, then anyway it will be the 10th offense, and one will not make progress even if he's chanting. So we should accept it as it is. That is why Krishna says, that he came to give this knowledge because it seemed to have been broken. Broken doesn't mean that the Gita knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was not there. It was there, but it was misinterpreted. So Krishna again wanted to re-establish. So he made Arjuna the successor of that as it is knowledge. So this is very important. And Bhagavad Gita is actually is sound incarnation, right? Because it is spoken by Krishna himself. So who can and Krishna so clearly in Bhagavad Gita talks about how the impersonal Brahman is coming, that he is the source of the impersonal Brahman. But still people don't want to accept Bhagavad Gita as it is. People want to accept Bhagavad Gita as they please or as they want, not as it is. Somebody wants to accept some part of Bhagavad Gita, but not some other part of Bhagavad Gita. How is that possible? We can't. It is like doctor is given two medicine, we take one and we don't take the other. How will it cure the disease? We have material disease. We are stuck in this material world. So this message has to be holistically taken as it is. And it is so powerful actually. By trying to understand what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita or what purports Prabhupada has written, Krishna eventually says that one is actually worshipping me with intelligence. That is why we should every day we should try to read Bhagavad Gita. There's so much there, so much of knowledge out here. And to the extent of our purification, we'll understand. Till then we continue. We keep continuing our efforts to try and understand Bhagavad Gita. We surrender to Guru. We surrender to Parampara. We surrender to Srila Prabhupada. And we pray for their mercy, saying, I'm not qualified. I can't understand all these things. But please give me mercy. Let me try to understand. I'm just trying. And we should understand, we should become humble because we can't understand Bhagavad Gita directly. That is why Prabhupada has said in the first chapter only, one has to hear Bhagavad Gita or study Bhagavad Gita in association with a devotee of Krishna. So even though devotee of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada has given us purport, still we might find it difficult to understand. And so we have to, seek guidance from other senior devotees who have realized the knowledge and try to learn. But we have to make our efforts also. Regularly, we should try to read and understand Bhagavad Gita. After multiple iterations, then we will start understanding. And we have to make notes. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is such a complex presentation. Complex in the sense because we don't understand. See, many of these topics actually for Arjuna, he already knew all this because he was in Vedic culture. And it was not new to him. So when Krishna spoke the second chapter, pretty much he assumed that the hearer actually has an idea of Vedic system, Vedic culture. So many words are not defined. They are just assumed that somebody knows, is aware. But for us in Kali Yuga, these things are all so foreign. We can't understand. So we should surrender to authority and, submissively, humbly try to understand. The knowledge as it is. Let us not interpret anything, or let us not say, I accept this, I don't accept this. Then if we receive the message as it is, then we'll become perfect, no doubt. But make notes. So next Saturday in our 4 o'clock session, I'm thinking that I don't know how much it will be possible, but I want to make like a summary of Bhagavad Gita, summary instructions. Because we can't start Bhagavatam without actually coming to the platform of full surrender to Krishna. So like a crash course type, right? Like in 1 or 2 sessions, I'm thinking that, I want to see if I can cover the most important, as in if these instructions are covered, mostly everything is covered. Let's see, it'll be useful because then at one snapshot we will understand what all Krishna is saying. Then we can start making efforts to kind of adopt those in our life. Okay, anybody has any questions? Okay.
No.
Okay, so we'll stop here for today. Okay, so just with respect to because Friday we will not have class because Maharaj will be here. Madhusmita Mataji wanted to know how we should, what we should do in front of Guru Maharaj, in front of Maharaj if he's there. And so see, basically, we respect a Vaishnava. We treat him with respect. And whatever service is required, we do. If we happen to engage with him, then if we have some questions we can ask. Otherwise, if he asks something, we answer. Otherwise, we are by ourselves. We are just serving. So we should. None of us will do that, but we should not be too over talkative with Guru. And like it should be a relationship of utmost respect. At least initially, slowly, then we might other kind of rasas might develop based on how close we become, how much we become engaged in his mission, etc., etc. But for now, it is just respect and love as well in terms of how we serve him. That's it. Nothing major. Actually, when we meet him personally, he's very nice. As in, he's so considerate. Like I was telling somebody saying, uh, even though I'm like really insignificant, and really young in that way, right? Like just got initiated a few years back. He still remembers, like he asks every time I meet him, he asks about my daughter Khushi. He remembers uh, the car that I drive because I used to drive him initially when a few years back when he used to come to Bangalore. I used to be his driver. Um, so he remembers. So he's like that. He's very personal. Uh, unlike unlike in his classes where he's so straightforward and he's like Prabhupada, right? Like Prabhupada used to be so strict in his classes. But when people used to go to talk to him personally, he's like, Vajradapi Kathor Kusmadapi Komal, right? Like that is a Vaishnava. He's like stronger than Thunderbolt, but softer than uh, like Rose, right? So if we happen to get a chance to interact with him, we'll understand. Like he's very one-on-one interactions and all. We'll feel like happy, basically. Opposite to possibly when we are hearing lectures, Guru Maharaj. We feel he's very strict, but he's actually very loving, caring. Mm. Every devotee he likes to. He wants to make sure that every devotee has had prasadam. So many things. I mean, you'll experience, but there's nothing, as in nothing new, nothing different. Just like how we treat and respect other Vaishnavas, do the same. And we should not forget, if we are interacting, we should say, if we are sheltered or aspiring, etc., we can say Guru Maharaj. Otherwise, others will say Maharaj. So we should not call Prabhu because we are in this habit of calling each other Prabhu. We shouldn't call. Of course, we can call Maharaj also as Prabhu, but we don't. We call him Maharaj or Guru Maharaj, as the case may be. Yeah, and if there is an opportunity to ask questions, you can feel free to ask. Don't have to. Once yeah, he's just straightforward that way, right? Like once I was a few years ago, like super into like Guru Maharaj had come to Bangalore, and the program in ICC temple, and I was like super excited into many years back, and I was like running around. Um, then from one place, his secretary was taking like shooting video, right? He was. No, I was so I wanted to make sure that everybody. By the way, so one thing which anyway we'll announce, there's mobiles switched off or silent mode or whatever. So some devotees were speaking in the congregation, so I was like over enthusiastically. I was like, shh, don't talk. And then when I was doing that, I didn't realize that I was coming in the way of the camera. Then he openly said in front of everybody, saying that maybe you are blocking the camera there. I was over enthusiastic, right? So I didn't see that there was some recording happening. So like that, so it's okay. See, any kind of when we hear any kind of correction, chastisement from Guru, that means purification. That means we are fortunate. Somehow we are getting his attention. Not that we should do wrong things to get his attention, but if something, we should not feel bad. Like last time, Guru Maharaj, he was planning to come to Bangalore, and then I wanted to offer, I have one house in Malleshwaram, Mantri Greens. I wanted to offer it to him for him to stay for a month. Then his servants and all, they came and said, it's not conducive because of these things, right? Because there are specific requirements, right? And they have to be met. Now, so then, I was thinking, oh, okay, Guru Maharaj is not coming. But then we should understand, saying that we are not doing these things to please ourselves. We are doing it to please Krishna. So if, okay, this doesn't work out, okay, it doesn't work out like that. I'm just saying, like, we should not become too touchy. He says something, that means that we should feel, oh, Krishna has told me, right? Like that. any Vaishnava for that matter, but especially if you're looking up to somebody as your guru, then it is even important to, and each and every word he says you should pay attention. He's like, see, he's not like, um, especially if there's a small gathering, he will say something which might not look like it is spoken to us, but it will be spoken to us like that. We should be very alert. He doesn't give direct instructions. He doesn't say, I think you should do this. He doesn't say like that. He will just say, maybe this can be done. It's like, and then whoever is attentive, whoever is hearing and say, oh, this can be done. Can I do that? Then that mood will come. Okay, can I do that? See, then that is a sincere disciple like that. Right? So just, yeah, I mean, this is how we should deal with all Vaishnavas, but it's not new to a few of you, but it might be new to few others. And not everybody have to be like front stage. I mean, I also prefer to be backstage. I don't like to be front stage, but it's fine. I mean, it's a happy occasion to serve. We actually, in fact, I think, I mean, I feel that he's coming just for giving us mercy. Because he knows that we are preaching slowly, steadily. It's growing little bit. So he's not gone anywhere else. I mean, he was in Salem, then he went to Vellore because he wanted clear, like a nice environment for writing books. And now this is the first place he's visiting. In the midst of Corona, he himself said, saying that I want to go to Bangalore. So unprecedented mercy for all of us that we can serve him. So yeah, I didn't know what to say when Sada told me that. Yeah, these are general things. Any other questions should I address or?